welcome back to my channel. I hope wherever you are, you're keeping safe and well. I'm doing this at the beginning today. This is how we're rolling. I might as well put in here that if you want to subscribe to my channel, please do so, because we're just breaking all the rules today. That's how we're going. So today's video is talking around this idea that we are healing and how I personally find that problematic, which I don't know if that's controversial or not. I feel like that's probably controversial, so you know, this is how we're rolling today. First off, mental health has historically been bandied in with physical health, you know, so doctors come in, you get a diagnosis, you have treatment. It kind of follows the medicalized model of mental health. Now, if you seek support privately, if you go and see a counsellor or therapist privately, they are not able to give you a medical diagnosis. In this country, the only people that can give you a medical diagnosis are psychiatrists. Doctors sort of can, you know, they like to do an anxiety and a depression diagnosis, but it's not an actual assessed diagnosis. It's very, very difficult actually to diagnose mental health because there's no test for mental ill health. You know, there's no kind of like blood test or ECG or physical test that you can go, oh yeah, they clearly have this issue. It's all based on how you feel, which is obviously subjective, and whether or not you can communicate that or not, which there's a whole range of reasons why you may not be able to communicate where you are. There's stigma, there's not even knowing, there's just, it's really, really problematic to try and diagnose mental ill health. And also the premise that you even need a diagnosis in this country is largely based on medicalized view of mental health. And for some people, getting a diagnosis is great because you have like a name for the thing. It feels like it's less personal. It's not your fault. You have this mental health diagnosis that it can be really helpful. So I'm not saying that diagnosis isn't important. I'm just saying that diagnosis is problematic. And where I'm going with this is that when you have a strong medicalized view, it results in this feeling of this is the thing that's happening to you, this is the illness, this is the problem, and you're not normal because you have this going on with you, and also you're some way defective. And I think I've done a video talking about the broken mentality. If I have, I'll link it here. If I haven't, I meant to, so sorry. But yeah, this idea that you're somehow defective because you have this thing going on with you. And then that kind of pushes the notion that you need to somehow manage those symptoms to get fixed, that there's a fixing of the breaking, and that just like, you know, you break your leg and your leg will heal, you need to somehow heal from this problem that you have with your mind. And I was thinking about this the other day and I just thought, oh my God, that's such a problematic, difficult way of looking at things. And you will see this all over social media as well. There is this premise of healing and recovering, and there's even posts about self-healers, which are people who, you know, do a lot of meditation, do a lot of reflection, have a lot of research and awareness around mental health stuff and psychology and where it can come from and how to combat that, and they kind of call it self-healers. Absolute respect to all of those things. However, for me personally, I just realised how problematic that notion is of healing. So I wanted to talk about that and why. First off, I did a video ages ago about trauma and what it is. I'm not even sure if it makes sense anymore, so I need to kind of update that video, but I'll link it here. When I talk about trauma, I'm not talking about just big traumatic life events. I'm talking about, yes, that, but also trauma from not being seen and not being heard. And over time, gradually, that can result in trauma. And Gabor Mate will argue that there is not a person on earth who hasn't been through some kind of trauma. It's just whether or not you're aware of it or not. So trauma is normal. You know, we say trauma, it's a big scary word. It's normal. Now, in the same way that if you fall and you cut your leg will heal. Our bodies, of which, you know, our mind is not separate from our body, it's all interlinked, our bodies heal. That's what they're meant to do. You know, we carry on surviving. So in the same way that if you fell over and you broke your leg, and I'm not talking like a horrendous break where it'll get infected and you'll die. I mean, like, you know, you fall over, you break your leg, and maybe it heals wonky because it wasn't set properly, because you didn't have assistance at the time. Now that will still heal. And even if at the time you went and had some help so that, you know, it was in line and it healed in line properly, maybe years down the line it still aches sometimes, because that's where you broke your leg, right? Like, you know that something happened there. That leg isn't as it was when you were born. You know, there was an event that happened, there was a break, there was either some assistance with the healing of that or there wasn't. And maybe sometimes that still comes up and that still causes you problems. Now, what happens when we experience kind of mental trauma is that our brain is incredibly capable at rewiring itself. So instead of a broken leg re-healing the leg, our brain reprograms itself. And usually the way that it reprograms itself is to work on avoiding that same situation again. And it does that through dissociation, triggering, through throwing up red flags, through hypersensitivity, through numbing you out for things. There's various ways that it works through that, predicting the future and keeping you safe. It's all there to keep you safe. And I think I covered this in the broken video if I've uploaded it. This notion that you've been through trauma and the way that you see the world is now broken because of the trauma you've experienced is wrong. Okay? Now, the reason why is because you experience trauma and then your brain does what it's absolutely designed and meant to do by protecting you in the future. So you're not broken. Your body is actually working the way it's meant to. There's nothing broken about that. Your brain has healed from what happened and it's now trying to keep you safe. So this is where this notion of healing, I think, personally, for me, is problematic, because it implies that A, we're still broken because we need to heal. And to an extent, we are still feeling the effects of it. So we are still experiencing wounding. But I would liken that to, like I said, if you had damaged your body physically and then years later you still get ramifications. You know, I had a car accident in like 2009 that affected my shoulder. I still get shoulder pain now. It's never going to go away. Like, that shoulder is always going to be hypersensitive. You know, if I spend too long driving, it's always going to ache. And I don't want to diminish mental health struggles, but what I'm trying to say is, when you've been through experiences, you are going to get ramifications, but it doesn't mean that you are not healed. It means that you're experiencing the ramifications after an event in the same way that you would if you had a physical injury. Now, the difference being, when I considered this term of healing, is firstly, I didn't like that it implied that there was something that we were broken from. And secondly, it diminished the body's natural ability to heal by itself. And also, I felt like it took away agency from people, because actually, your bodies heal anyway. Your mind heals anyway. Then what happens is, if you have self-awareness, you then have the choice whether or not you are happy with those things still coming up in your life. You know, whether or not the way that you have healed and the way that you live your life because of what you've been through, you then have the choice to decide whether or not you're happy with that or whether or not you'd like to make some changes. Now, your brain has literally reprogrammed itself to keep you safe. That doesn't sound like that's something that needs healing, because it's trying to keep you safe, it's trying to ensure your survival, and you have the choice to then choose differently, to then rewire your brain again, basically. But it's a choiceful thing rather than trauma causing the rewiring. You then have the awareness to be able to challenge that rewiring, and it will feel really uncomfortable and really vulnerable and really, really difficult, and you will literally feel like you are not going to survive it, because that's the way that your brain has programmed itself, and you are challenging your brain to see that you will survive in a different way and that you won't experience that pain and trauma again. So it's the hardest thing that I personally have ever done, was to begin to cultivate that self-awareness and then to challenge the way that I saw the world and the way that I thought everything related and what I thought was safety. That's without doubt one of the hardest things that I have done and that I continue to do. But what I would say is that I don't like to use the term healing because I'm already healed. I wasn't broken in the first place. The way that I was acting and reacting and existing in the world made perfect sense when you looked at the experiences that I've been through in my life. And actually what was happening was I was making a conscious choice to reprogram, rewire, rework things. And I guess if I bring this back to the physical body and how you can link it, I would say it's you broke your leg 10 years ago, it's still giving you pain, and you know you're having kind of maybe some regular physio treatment in the hope that you might have less pain. And maybe actually if you didn't have treatment at the time when you broke it, maybe you actually need to go and have some more surgery because the way that it's healed isn't effective. And maybe that involves some physio, maybe that's like a really difficult thing to go through. Or maybe because you did have the support at the time when you went through this injury, you know, it is just like a weekly physio session or something that can help you. That's kind of how I would see taking care of mental health. It's not that you're healing, it's that you're actually making a conscious choice, and that is far more powerful than to say that you're healing from something that has already occurred, that your brain has healed from, that you're just choosing differently. And that's so fundamentally brave, difficult, vulnerable, challenging, like insert any number of adjectives here to show how amazing that is, beyond considering that you are something that is broken and that needs healing. I hope that that makes some kind of sense. It did to me. I just kind of had this moment where I sort of looked at it and went, oh my God, we say that we're healing. And yes, that probably does come from this medicalized view that you are injured and then you heal. You're already healed exactly as you are right now. You know, anxiety, flashbacks, dissociation, numbing, whatever your coping mechanisms are, you're okay. You're okay exactly as you are. It is your choice. If those things don't align with you, it's a choice to seek support to possibly change that. I would also say that privilege comes into that as well, because some people just don't have the choice to have good mental health. Like, it is a privilege to be able to seek support. I find that, again, problematic. So I don't know if today's video has been helpful. I feel like it's been a bit rambly, but then I say that about all my videos. If it has been helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel. I did that bit at the beginning. I've done it twice. What? It's all still a little bit all over the place, but I hope wherever you are, you're keeping safe and well. And I'll catch you in the next one.